What's going on, everybody? So I'm up here today, not far, about a quarter mile from my house, just sort of up the mountain, and I thought I'd make a video while I'm out here. Not sure how well you can see anything. There you go, you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, I've been working on a new video last couple of days, doing a lot of research on it, and getting some help from some people and putting it all together. But I thought today seemed like a good day to kind of take a break and to get out in nature. And as I was leaving the house, I was thinking about this question, this comment somebody left under my Q&A, and it had a lot of likes under it. And I thought, I should probably answer that. And I think I even wrote something underneath it saying something to the fact that that probably deserves its own video. So before I left, I wrote the question down, and I thought that I'd bring it with me, and if the mood struck me right, I'd answer it, and it's striking me right. So, it's a good question. So the question is from Connor J. Lice, which I may or may not be pronouncing that correctly. Sorry, Connor. Connor asks, how do you explain to a loved one or a friend the itch that Red Dead Redemption and its world scratches for someone who appreciates the Old West, 1800s, history, etc.? In other words, how do you convince them how a mere video game touches a part of one's soul similar to how a book or real-life experience would? Good question. Okay. First of all, I love history. It's what I do for a living. I know a lot of you love history. The game's historical. There's a lot of overlap there. Probably helps explain why a lot of us love the game, particularly if we're really into history in the Old West. So that's a big component right there. So let's get that out of the way. But what I want to talk about is that there's a lot of other stuff going on sort of behind that, for why I think a lot of us like the game to the point that, some of us can say, like Connor was saying, is how do you explain, that it sort of touches one's soul and it has this impact? Well, a lot of the explanation for that is that the game sort of gives us an opportunity to experience a lot of things that were sort of pre-ingrained to want to experience. In other words, particularly for men, it lights up historical male neurology. And so what I mean by that is, historically, our brains have developed to want to engage in hunting. They've developed to want to be in nature and to sort of feel comfortable there, even though a lot of us, maybe if you don't spend time in nature, it's very uncomfortable. But, also to work in small groups to accomplish a goal, right? That our brains are wired to do that. And they're also wired to engage in sort of risky, dangerous behavior. Historically, all those things served very valuable purposes, right? So it's interesting that throughout human history, so if we kind of go through that list, so throughout human history, for millions of years, for almost all of human history, men have engaged in hunting. And that was our job, right? There are two jobs, hunting and providing. And, well, hunting equals providing, sorry. So hunting equals providing, and the other one is protection, right? So in talking about the hunting aspect, so there's only this, I mentioned this in another video, but there's only this sliver of human history where men haven't engaged in hunting as effectively a full-time profession. And, doing that for millions of years, it doesn't just go away, right? That's still very much up here, not in the hat, but in the head. And when the game provides an avenue for us to be out in nature and to engage in hunting, you better believe that it starts lighting up that portion of our brain, and it just kind of feels right in many ways. It's a weird way to kind of explain it, but it feels right. As I mentioned, like the nature aspect, right? Being in nature, right? We know that being in nature is unbelievably good for us mentally. It's unbelievably good for us physically as well. And we all need to be doing probably much more of that. And I know not everybody has access to it, but we should make a concerted effort to be better about it. Now, before I get too much into the nature part, going back to the hunting, historically, all males underwent a rite of passage, okay, in order to transition from being boys to being men. And in every single society, hunting was that rite of passage, with only minimal, rare exception. And the reason for that, of course, why hunting was used is that hunting showed that you're capable of being a provider, and it showed that you're willing to effectively engage in dangerous activity to serve as not just a provider, but also a protector, right? That if you could stalk and hunt an animal and survive in the woods, it made you valuable to the tribe to have those skills. And as I said, throughout human history, boys were ushered into manhood through hunting. And it's interesting in that the idea was that historically, women's rite of passages tend to center around sort of childbirth and child rearing and so on and so forth. And historically, again, when women would have their first menstruation, that was sort of their ushering girls into womanhood. Right, because you were capable of becoming pregnant, all of a sudden there's this immense level of responsibility that's sort of placed on women, or girls becoming women, right at that point. But what's different about men is that history is very clear on this, is that boys didn't become men, that boys had to be made into men. That's the difference. Again, I'll say it one more time because it's really important, is that historically, boys don't become men, they have to be made into men. And there has to be a rite of passage to sort of show that they've sort of accumulated the attributes, the skills, etc. of manhood, which grant them, not just individually grant them personally self-esteem, but makes them respected, makes them useful as well. Sorry, the wind's really picking up. So that's why hunting sort of served that purpose. Also, hunting taught empathy. And it's kind of weird saying that, right? Is that by, you'd think, well, you're killing something. Like, right. But it's through the process of killing something that you understand how fleeting life actually is. That's a weird sort of dichotomy in some ways, but that's kind of how it works. There was a survey done by DNR, and I can't remember which state it was done, or if it was a national survey, but it found that something like 80 to 90% of hunters feel bad in killing an animal. Not like they don't want to do it and they regret it, but they feel that they've extinguished a life, and they sort of recognize the seriousness of that, right? What that actually means. And as I said, through that, and we know again that correlates historically with, through the hunting, men learned empathy. So men and women have two very different avenues there, but it is interesting, right? In that, if you think about it, women create life and men took it in order to preserve life, right? It's a weird, I keep using the word, but it's a weird dichotomy on which sort of everything rests, right? So they take life to preserve it. Anyway, all that stuff is ingrained in us. It's ingrained in our neurology, and when you combine them together, then, like I said, hunting and being in nature, it makes sense that those components of the game are going to hit us at a level that's sort of unexpectedly deep, and it's primal, I guess is maybe a good way of putting it. The other parts and components of it, right, like working in small groups to accomplish a goal, right? We know that men are wired to work in small groups of men to accomplish goals, and you see that in Red Dead with posses, right? That you create these small groups, and that's also, it's not just replicated in that game, it's replicated in all sorts of games, right? Lots of game producers realize that, whether it's, on like Call of Duty, if it's a clan, or if it's a gang, and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of connection between like inner city gangs and the lack of rites of passage, and the lack of ushering boys into manhood, right? Because gangs give an opportunity for young boys to feel like they belong, to feel like they hold some sort of significance, I guess, in some ways. But obviously it's a bit misdirected. But I understand where it comes from, and there's a lot to be said about that lack of initiation into manhood, and the mentors that are necessary in order to help carry that rite of passage out. You just don't see them very much anymore. And that's that. As far as wanting to engage in risky behavior, right, dangerous behavior, that's also a thing, right? That's also a thing that we're sort of predisposed to engage in, particularly younger men, right? I was reading a book, and it was talking about if you're between the ages of like 16 and 25, like historically those were prime ages for soldiers, but after that, there's sort of different paths that men take, and all throughout life, men start taking different paths, and they reach different stages, and but there's sort of that aspect of wanting to engage in risk behavior that it definitely strikes young, between 16 and 25, but it doesn't necessarily go away. It just kind of changes, and you're more better to assess the what would you call it? Better to assess the whether it's worth it or not. Let's just put that out there, and which things are worth it, which things maybe aren't. So, so engaging in risky behavior. It's funny that we don't have a lot of opportunities to engage in a lot of that stuff today. Whereas, like nowadays, you're like, oh, I'm going to climb this mountain. Well, for most people, it's like, great. Well, here, come inside. There's a fake rock wall here that you can climb under supervision, of course, right? Just put this harness on, hook this carabiner up, tie this rope. This guy's a professional. Step on the blue mat, make sure you sign the waiver, etc., etc. It's strange in that, in many ways we're domesticated versions of what we once were, right? We're dogs, but our ancestors were wolves. And I think we crave a lot of the wolf, right? That it's funny, like we are placed in a different world, right? In a world of technology, but in a lot of ways, nothing's really changed up here. That we're still pre-programmed for millions of years of evolution to want to go into this, and I think that's what Red Dead delivers. So when you add all that stuff up, right? Like you love history, that makes sense. Red Dead's going to be a great fit. And I think maybe we also love a bit of the quote-unquote simplicity of the 1800s. But what's funny is that the 1800s, they probably love the simplicity of the 1500s, right? Where does it end? But when you combine all that stuff together, like I said, it's the opportunity the game provides to sort of be in solitude, to be in nature, even though it's synthetic, right? It's not real. It doesn't provide the same benefits, but it's like something in our brain starts lighting up and saying, yeah, this seems right. Something about this is right. So, you're in nature, you're hunting, you're working in small groups, you can engage in risky behaviors. It makes total sense. So that's why I think it sort of touches people on that level, is that it gives a lot of people what they're craving and missing, right? And being out in nature and taking the time to sort of be out here puts a lot of that stuff into perspective. There's so much stimuli in the world that we're always bombarded with it, right? It's just everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And we just kind of tune so much out that when we get into nature, we start tuning back in. And it's funny, like I go on these trips up to Canada with my dad and my closest friends in the world. And we all go up there, and we do this great expedition in the middle of nowhere, okay, in northern Canada. And there's no electricity, there's no roads, nothing. And what's funny is, like, when you first get up there, nature's sort of overwhelming in a lot of ways. But probably around the third day or so, it's crazy. Everything starts slowing down, and it all of a sudden makes you very alert to everything going on around you. So, like, you pick up smells that were always there, but you weren't smelling them. You see movement of a branch over here, right? Or you see a movement of branch over here, and your brain registers it not as just, oh, it's just more stimuli. It registers it as you know, that could be a predator over there, and you need to actually stop and pay attention to it. So it's pretty neat how how nature kind of resets our brains and gives us, I think, more proper perspective. And like I said, you know, Red Dead provides a synthetic version of that, and I think that's why a lot of us kind of enjoy it, right? All that stuff tied up together. But yeah, so if you don't have an opportunity to get out into nature, you know, I think that if you can be creative about it, you can probably figure out a way to do it. I lived in downtown Denver, basically, just south of downtown for years. And even though I sort of grew up a lot in nature, living in the city even for years, it really sort of deadened me in a lot of ways. It just tuned me out, and I wasn't very present at all. And you know, moving up to the mountains is one of the best things I ever did. And it just kind of recalibrates me. And I know a lot of you don't have that opportunity, you know, so I'm not just saying, oh, it's easy, just get out into this. You can do you can do it. I don't want to come across the wrong way. I just mean that, you know, a lot of places have, you know, even parks, right? Just somewhere that you can just kind of disconnect for a little bit from electronics and from screens. Just kind of take a moment. And, you know, it's funny for me to say it, which is a guy who makes a lot of videos about a video game, about Red Dead, but, you know, I think Red Dead's great, and I think it teaches people, it's an avenue to teach people a lot of history, and I think it's great because it also, as I said, it's a synthetic form of giving us a lot of the stuff that we want. It's just that if we can, let's try to implement some non-synthetic version of it, right? Some of the real versions of it, and I think we'll be better off for doing more of that. That's all. Anyway, look, it's too beautiful to just keep sitting here talking. I got some more hiking I want to do, so I'm gonna get to it. But it's been fun chatting, and I'll keep plugging away at this next video, and hopefully I'll get it out somewhat soon, right? As soon as it's done. Anyway, thank you, folks. You take care. I'm out of here.